What up, though? I'm your host, Untitled the Man, and this is the TheBackShot podcast. Let's get to it.
Keep it 100 and kill yourself. Don't bullshit with it.
What up, though? We're in the TheBackShot podcast, episode 7. So, first topic for the day is HBCUs. Are they still necessary? Why or why not? And to that, I asked three things, or shall I say, I'm going to cover three things: why they were started, what they do, and what they mean. So, if you know anything about American history, you know about chattel slavery, and you know about segregation, and you know that people of color, black people predominantly, weren't allowed at the established universities in the 16, 17, 18, and early 1900s. It was a thing, right? And to some degree, we're not even allowed in their schools nowadays, and we in 2022, and that's yeah. So they were started as places for quote unquote higher learning, for us to earn the equivalent level of competency in a given field of study as our non-colored and or white counterparts, right? So that's the historically black part, right? College and universities. So you're looking at places like Cheney and Lincoln and Wilberforce and Grambling and Howard and Hampton and University of DC and FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, FIU, FAU, Xavier, Jackson State, et cetera, right? So you're looking at this laundry list of schools where we establish collegiate level study programs for ourselves because the established collegiate level study programs at these other places weren't allowing us access. And if they did, it was under heavy scrutiny, unnecessarily heavy scrutiny, and a lot of backlash and nonsense, right? So that's why they were started. Give us our own place to study and get our education and our business on. What they do, um, simply, they provide a place for us to go study amongst people who look like us, right? And they allow us to learn things that other people would try to hide from us and or just blatantly lie to us about, so we can learn the truth about ourselves and about our history and the facts thereof. Excuse me. It also creates a safe space for us to exist at the collegiate level, because when you're not around your own people, you tend to, excuse me, bend and flex unnecessarily to try to make a greater ease of process while you're at these institutions that are predominantly other cultures or ethnicities, so that you aren't perceived as a or the problem. It's unfortunate, though it is a reality. That's what they do. They produce business professionals in an array of studies. Those that look like us and those that don't, because HBCUs are not exclusive to black folks or people of African descent. If you got the scores to get in and you got the paper, you know, they'll go ahead and approve your application, and you can go get your study on. Right now, mind you, we do a lot of things better, in my opinion, straight up and down. You're not gonna get the same college experience at University of Michigan as you would at Howard as a black person. You're not going to get the same experience at Hampton as you would at UCLA as a black person, so forth and so on, right? USC to Grambling, Southern to Texas A&M. So they provide that one-of-a-kind experience that you're only going to get in HBCU. Like, the social life is different, the events are different, that dorm room experience is gonna be different, right? Your day to day, your classroom presentations are gonna be different, because you more times you are more likely to have a black instructor at an HBCU than you will at a white college, right? It just is, or what we call them PWIs. So it gives you that more home feel of, with people who look like you, and that's the predominant narrative, is that you're surrounded by people who look like you, right? So that's the what they do part. And the what they mean a whole lot, man. They mean that we had to make a space for ourselves because there wasn't a space made for us, and everybody wanted to get rid of us once slavery was over with. They mean that we have our own places that we can go for higher learning to learn more about what has happened to us, what may happen to us, and what we are doing to, for, and with ourselves. That's what they mean. They mean hope for professional prominence in a society that doesn't necessarily care for our existence, and in large part wishes we would just go away. And it also means a ease of process comparatively, or higher ease of process comparatively to a PWI, is because if I grew up in a black neighborhood in a black city with a black family, and I go to black grade schools, then I can go continue that same culture somewhat at a black college or university, and then I can go either join an established black business or go establish one myself, right? That's what they mean. They mean that history and lineage, right? You got some families, and it's like 4 or 5 generations are all Howard grads, or Hampton grads, or Grambling grads, or Xavier grads, or Prairie View A&M grads, or Southern grads. You got some families to where, they got 5, 6, 7, 8 generation, all of them HBCU grads across the country, so forth and so on. So that's what they mean. And if you ask different people, they'll give you different answers. So jump in the comments on that, why they were started, what they do, and what they mean. Yep. All right, so next up is ease of process, grade school to professional prominence. And the way I laid this out is 4 parts, right? So there's elementary, middle, and high school setup. There's high school to college. There's college to profession. And then there's change of career. So I'm going to start with the first one, elementary, middle, high school. In elementary school, you're set up to go to high school. In elementary school, you're set up to go to middle school. Every year is more so compounding on the things that you've already learned from the previous grade. That's why before you can go to the next grade, your parents will sit down with the teachers from your current grade, and they'll discuss whether or not you're ready for the next grade level. And then when you get to the next grade level, if you're not doing so hot, they'll go back and go to your previous year teachers, like, hey, how is this kid as a student in your class, blase, 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 right? So that's elementary to middle school. And in middle school is where you start to really develop your personality. You hit puberty, you start developing your thought process on a lot of things, and kind of setting yourself to be how you're going to be from a foundational standpoint, right? You start to determine where you want to fit in that proverbial food chain. Whether you're the nerd, whether you're the cool kid, whether you're the jock, whether you're the goth, whether you're this, whether you're that, or whatever collection of those demographics you fit into, right? Because some of us get trapped in those. Some of us is like, oh, I played sports, and everybody only knew me as being an athlete, so I became a jock, right? Regardless of how I behaved in any other area that we can categorize behind, So, and then some people just kind of had a mashup of different things. Like myself, I was the coolest nerd you ever met, right? And which was awkward for me and a lot of other students, because I was too cool to hang with the smart kids, but I was too smart to hang with the cool kids, if that makes any sense, right? You don't have the high enough GPA to hang with the kids who, in National Honor Society, who got straight A's, but your vocabulary and your delivery and your efforts in class makes you too much of a nerd, or too much of a brainiac, or too much of a smarty pants to hang with the cool kids who get respect for being social and having the things that we at that level utilize to rank ourselves in our social status, right? So middle school, you kind of get you kind of start to develop those things, and then in high school, you kind of pick a lane you're gonna stay in for a while, and you kind of ride that lane. Now the interesting thing about it is, elementary school sets you up for high school. I mean, elementary school sets you up for middle school. Middle school somewhat sets you up for high school, but high school don't set you up for nothing. It gives you a bunch of general information, and unless you get into a school that's got these particular programs that set you up for this career path, for that career path, for this career field or that career field, it's just general information that's supposed to give you the tools to be able to go wherever, but it doesn't set you up to go anywhere outside of those real particular programs that in a lot of our inner city schools we don't have, right? Or they got it at this school but not that school. They got it in this, they got this program at this school but not at that school, right? And so we don't really direct our children in any direction. We just kind of give them this wide range of, well, you got all these options, and then look at them crazy when they don't stick, when they pick a thing and then decide they don't want to stick with it, and they change and they keep changing, vice picking the thing and sticking with it, right? To me, that's crazy, but we do it. So that's the elementary to high school setup, right? And in high school, they don't teach you enough life skills. Like, why is it that kids graduate high school without driver's licenses? They graduate high school without passports. They graduate high school without a credit card. They graduate high school without knowing how to write a business plan. They graduate high school without understanding how firearms licenses work. They graduate high school without any established insurance. They graduate high school without never filing taxes, right? All of these functions of adulthood, they graduate high school without ever reading a mortgage application or a mortgage contract, right? They have no working knowledge of these things, right? So we have all of these things that are functions of adulthood, and we classify, and I'm gonna do this with air quotes, we classify our high school graduates as adults, people between 17 and 19. And honestly, between 17 and 19, you don't know shit. I'm gonna say it plain as that. You don't know shit. You think you know something, but you don't know shit. You haven't lived long enough to know anything. You haven't experienced life enough to know anything between 17 and 19. And everybody's different. Everybody's got their own story, and I'm not discounting anybody's story. I'm purely telling you, in comparison to what life has to offer you and what is expected out of you as an adult, a fully functioning, productive member of society in the American context and in the adult context, you don't know shit. You're not qualified to do shit. You're not certified to do shit. You don't have any experience at doing shit. Why? Because you've never had to do shit. Just straight up. You don't know because you've never had to. You don't know because you weren't taught and you never had to. And if you were taught and you had to, you probably had some unnecessary circumstance, or you're one of the small percentage of people who were given a professional track early on and given the tools to be successful early on, so you could develop your own sense and timing of the application of those tools to be successful, i.e. your parents own businesses and taught you the basis of how those businesses work, to where when you go to college, you know what you want to major in, and you know why you want to major in that, and you have a plan for the application of that major afterwards, and that process is kind of laid out, right? But for the vast majority of us, we didn't, and we don't, So we don't know shit. And so that takes me to the next part, right? High school to college. High school to college. We do not prepare people to go to college. And for in the vast majority, right? And for those who are prepared to go to college, they're not prepared to graduate from college and apply their college degree in a given field. They are not prepared for that. Nobody prepared them to actually behave like a successful college student. They didn't prepare them to understand the totality of what comes with being a college student, especially in that 17 to 23 age range, because that's what most college students are, 17 to 23. People like us 18 to 25, no, 17 to 23. Be realistic. Most of us become, in air quotes, college students between 17 and 23, right? Based on when your birthday fell, when you put in your application, blah, 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 blase, blase. It's like, oh, well, you graduated high school and you turned 18 and then you went to college. No, but before then, you applied, got accepted, you agreed to go to that school, you put in your, you went to your orientation, you picked out your classes, etc., right? So 17 to 23, they didn't prepare you to get in there, get your degree, get out, and get to work. They didn't prepare you for that. They glamorized college so you would enjoy the social college experience, and then they kind of tug at you just a little bit so you graduate and get the hell out. But they want you to linger, around and pay them more money. So that's why they're not mad when you don't graduate, because all you did was paid them all this money over time, and they didn't really have to do shit to you. They didn't really have to teach you nothing. You went up there, you had some fun, and you didn't finish, so they don't have to give you the credentials, to say that, oh, this person came here. But they got your money though, right? So that high school to college transition is in the American context is piss poor. They're not preparing you to use what you learn in college. They're not preparing you to be successful as a college student. They didn't prepare you to make a decision and stick with it, and then stick with it to the end of that decision and apply what you learned on the backside. They didn't prepare you for that, right? And very few of us actually get that adequate preparation for that. Because if that was the case, you should have been, if they wanted you to do that, you should have been picking your classes as a senior. You should have been picking your senior classes as a freshman. You should have been like, oh, what do I want to study in college? That should have been a conversation had as a freshman. That should have, you know what I'm saying? If high school was preparing you to go to college, you should have been looking at college as a freshman. You should have been looking at career paths as a freshman. They should have a counselor that sat down with you as a freshman and go, hey, with the way that you're going, your higher scores are in these areas and these areas. So that means your applicable level of knowledge would best suit a successful attempt in this area and that area when it comes to professional studies. Vice, how are you getting along with other students, et cetera, right? So high school does not prepare you for college. It doesn't. I've been there, done that. No, it does not. And I deal with college age students every day. Every day I deal with college age students, and I can honestly tell you, they're not prepared for that shit, because they get there and they go, man, a year in, I don't know what I want to do with my life. They just want the college experience. They're not actually prepared to go there, learn some shit, get out, and then go apply what they learned. Right? So that's the high school to college thing, right? Now, next part, college to profession. Colleges do not prepare you to be the business professional once you graduate. They just prove that you can read, write, and regurgitate information about a specified subject Their job is to teach you the information. Their job is not to prepare you for the use of the information. They're just there to ensure that you can read, write, and regurgitate the given information. It's like high school on steroids, effectively. Because if I go to college to be an architect, right? Why am I graduating college without a guaranteed job, or B an established business of my own? Why? Why am I doing this? Why? That's because the system did not prepare you to apply what you learned after graduation. That, you know what I'm saying? That to them, that's not their job. Oh, it's like, oh, I'm a physics teacher. My job is to teach you physics. My job is not to teach you the application of physics after you leave the school. It's just to teach you the subject. Well, what good is it? What good are you doing to people if you're just giving them information but not teaching them the application of the information, and you're not putting them in position to be successful at the application of the information? What good are you? I can teach you how to say words in a given language, right? But if I don't teach you how these words are applied and when to say what word and how to put words together, I'm not actually teaching you shit. Like, I'm legitimately not teaching you anything, and it becomes useless for me to say, oh, I taught you how to do this or that, because I didn't teach you how to apply the shit. I just taught you the information. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You can read, write, and regurgitate this, that, or the third. You can, you know what I mean? So it's not of substance and value as it would be if you taught the application. Don't get me wrong. I'm not down in college professors and the way that they teach. I'm looking at the system, and the system says, oh, I'm a physics teacher, I'm gonna teach you physics. Oh, I'm an English teacher, I'm gonna teach you English. Or I'm a English lit. I'm a 20th century literature teacher, I'm gonna teach you 20th century literature. I'm a history teacher, I'm gonna teach you history. But where is the application of the degree? If I go get a general studies degree, which in my opinion is a waste of fucking time. I'm not downplaying anybody who has a general studies degree, because that was available and that's what you thought was the best fit for you, and that's cool. That's what you feel like works for you. But a general studies degree says that you are proficient at what? You are proficient at general studies? What the fuck is general studies? Oh, you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide? Cool. You know basic earth science? Cool. You can hold a conversation? Cool. You can read, in most cases, the English. You can read, write, and regurgitate the English language? Cool. General studies in what? I can go where and do what with a general studies degree? Not much. Not much, because it doesn't give me a career path. What career path requires a general studies degree? Like, give me a legitimate career path that goes, oh, general studies degree, you the person we want. No, that's foolish. It's a fancy piece of paper that says, yeah, I went to high school on steroids and had to pay for this shit for 4 or 5 years, right? So that college to profession trap is legitimately a trap, right? Because there's no application of the information studied. There's no system for transition for application. There's no system for application. And you say, well, what about internships? Yeah, internships are great for getting experience in a given field, but not everybody gets an internship. Internships are great for getting your foot in the door somewhere, but not every intern gets the job. Well, what about work study? Work, 9 times out of 10, the person who's doing work study, they're not working in the field that they study. So then it becomes about making money. And then it becomes about making money, not applying the skills learned in college. You're not applying your level of knowledge. You're legitimately working to make money for something, or you need money in your pocket, or you gotta pay for tuition, or you gotta pay for books, or you gotta, put gas in your car. You gotta pay your car insurance, your phone bill. You're just trying to adult at that point. Emphasis on the trying part. You're trying to adult at that point in the American context. You need some money in your pocket because you want to go do shit, and work study is an avenue to do that. Once again, this system is not set up for the application of information studied in the classroom to be applied in the profession. So it would be drastically different and a substantially different conversation if your work study was based on what you actually study. Because when I went to college for architecture and I did work study, I worked in a tool issue shop, and my job was checking in and out power tools. Hey man, I need a drill with these bits, or I need a 9/16 wrench with these. I need a 2-inch socket with these attachments. I need an extender bar. I need an adjustable wrench that goes up to this size, right? Ain't got jack and shit to do with drafting buildings. Like, nah, I don't. And if you try to tell me, well, it's in the same general field of construction, nah, bro. The architect is not a construction worker. The architect is an architect. Like they design the pictures and the plans, and then you've got a whole construction team and a foreman that runs to make sure that each of those parts that come with building that thing gets done. The electricians run the wires, the plumbers run the pipes, the wood, the carpenters lay your truss, the flooring guy does your floors, etc., etc., etc. Two things that have jack and shit to do with each other. Nursing student worked in the admin office. Their work study program was making copies, answering phones, and setting up schedules. And got shit to do with being a nurse. That's being a receptionist. Big difference, right? So that college to profession piece, right? That transition is terrible because there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee for transition. There's no guarantee for a successful transition to generate substantial or equivalent income. And 9 times out of 10, the fields you're working on, you're making, and in most cases, you're not even making in a year the amount that it costs to educate you. Perfect example. An ex-girlfriend of mine went to University of Florida and got her doctorate, right, in pharmacy. So undergrad was paid for via scholarship, so she just had to pay for grad school, right? So as a pharmacist, she racked up $120,000 worth of debt, right? $120,000 worth of college loan debt. She makes just over $120,000 a year, and she's got a doctorate. So with that in mind, it takes her a year's worth of pay. A year's pay. It takes her a year's pay to pay off student loans. That is wild and crazy. Now, how many people go to college and rack up $100,000+ in debt to go into a field, and they don't make $100,000 in a year? You owe more money than you make in a year. That's foolish to me. How do you owe more money than you make in a year? If you make $30,000 a year and you go buy a $50,000 car, a year's salary is not going to cover the cost of that car. That car is not making you no money. Home buying is different because it builds equity. Cars lose money as soon as you pull them off the lot. But the fact that you went to school for X number of years and you built up all this debt, and just to go into a profession that doesn't pay you an annual salary that will cover that debt, or that pays you just at or below, it pays you just at the cost of the debt or below the cost of the debt, that's crazy to me. That is mind blowing. Yeah, come here for 4 years to earn a piece of paper that says that you're qualified or you're certified in this area of study to go get a job in this field that doesn't pay you as much as it doesn't pay you in a year as much as it costs for us to teach you the shit. That is downright foolish to me. It's fucking backwards. It is just completely fucking backwards. Right? Alright, so that's the college to profession, right? And then we're gonna get into the last part of this particular topic, which is changing careers. Changing careers is something that is terrifying to most people, but people do it on a daily basis, and I have to say that. Change careers, because especially with the coronavirus, like motherfuckers change careers because they had to. It's like, what'd you do? It was like, oh, I was a financial analyst at this company. Well, coronavirus hit and that company shut down, so I had to go be an Uber driver. Or I had to change careers to become a third grade teacher. Why? Because my kids couldn't go to school, so I had to teach them. So now I have to become a third grade teacher to teach my kids in homeschool. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a whole career change. Or like somebody's like, you know what? I worked this job for 10 years and I got laid off just because. Like a friend of mine, she's worked for a company for at least the last 5 years. You know, and they hit her with a severance package. They was hitting people with pink slips and severance packages over the last 2 months. She took the severance package, right? So now she's changing careers, and she's got a whole fucking 4-year degree in broadcasting and communication from Bowling Green State University, but her career field had nothing to do with her degree, right? She's doing financing and charts and spreadsheets all damn day. It had jack shit to do with excuse me. It got jack shit to do with broadcasting and communications. You know, once again, that whole transition piece, right? And so she got to change professions, right? So, you know, she's an entrepreneur, getting her business together, you know, putting in her applications to get more steady income while she putting his business together, right? But look at all the people who change careers because they have to, or they change careers because they want to. I listened to a guy the other day talking about he was working in finance, and when he was in his 40s, he decided he wanted to go back to school to be a dentist because his brother-in-law was a dentist, and he had been chatting him up on how much he enjoyed being a dentist. So he went back to medical. So he went back to school to be a dentist. Now the dude's a dentist, and he's been a dentist for the last 15 years. You know, and his wife's got a degree in dental hygiene, and they go to these conferences all the time, right? But he just up and changed careers. You know, and it's a scary thing, man. If you ain't got your finances in order, you can't afford to change careers. How many people work at McDonald's because they had to, as a result of changing careers? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know people personally who they was a CNA in this state, but they moved to another state, and because of some technicalities, now they work at Buffalo Wild Wings. You know what I'm saying? You went from being a certified nursing assistant to being a cashier at Buffalo Wild Wings. Like, that's wild, right? That's wild because of a technicality, right? But there's not a manual on changing careers. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have an American society that's set up to ease that transition and to keep us afloat, to ease that transition while we change careers. That's ridiculous. And then when this coronavirus nonsense hit, everybody had to change careers. It was like, well, what did you do for a living, man? I worked at a steel mill, you know. Then what happened? Coronavirus came. So what'd you do, man? I got into broadcasting. Why? Because I could do that from the house. How many people was like, I was a bank teller. And then what happened? Now I do, you know, now I do customer service from Comcast from my house. I worked, I worked here. It was like, oh, I worked at this place. I was a receptionist at a nursing office. What happened? Then, they laid a couple of us off. Boom. What you doing? I'm the manager at Subway. Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like drastic career changes, right? And they don't provide avenues that streamlines that process. And as an American society, we are terrible at transitioning. And that ease of process from grade school to professional prominence, man. That ease of process is gone. We don't have that. Like it's just, I ain't gonna say it's gone. It's just non-existent. As a first grader, I should be able to look at 6 years old, 6, 7 years old. I should be able to look at a dentist and go, hey, how do I become a dentist? As a first grader, how do I become a dentist? And I should see a educationally based timeline with an identified ease of process to go from being an intrigued first grader to being a well-paid dentist. I should see that. And the dentist should be able to tell me step by step how to do this whole process, right? From the time I was 6 to the time I step in my first day, as a licensed DDS. Like I should be able to do that, right? But we don't. And especially as black people, man, ease of process from grade school to professional prominence. We have to create our own tracks for that. If you got the game, give it to the next person behind you, man. Make that ease of process, that much better. Like I as a professional, right? As a logistician, because I do logistics for a living. As a logistician, when I train my new guys to take over whatever function I'm doing at the time, right? When I train my new guys, I find the easiest way for them to do whatever I had to do. So if I'm the guy who is, doing high priority orders, right? And we got a new guy who I got to train on how to do high priority orders. I'm gonna write a bunch of notes for this dude, right? Or this female, right? This junior person. I'm gonna take all my notes, right, and all of my how-tos, and all the stuff I had to learn the hard way, all the stuff I had to learn by trial and error, all the stuff I had to learn by bumping my head, all the stuff I had to learn by being in these funky situations and having no one to ask or no one available to assist at the time, right? And I'm gonna take all of that tribal knowledge that I've gained over the time that I was doing, high priority orders, and I'm gonna condense all of that down to step-by-step guides and notes, so that this person can do the job can transition into this position with the greatest ease of process, with as little hiccups as possible. Hey, step by step, and I'll color code it. I'll put printouts and screenshots and everything in there. Hey, click on this application and this thing is gonna come up. Let it think. Hey, when this screen comes up, click on this button in the upper right hand corner, and I'll highlight that button or put a circle around that, put arrows and notes, so you can do step by step. So your time adjusting to this new position is substantially easier than my time, right? That transition, and I'll be available for you to call and ask questions, and people do it. They'd be like, hey man, hey, when you was in this position, how did you do the X, Y, and Z? Oh, I did it like this. Hey, remember the notes I gave you? Yeah, look in this section. It should tell you the blah, 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 blah. And they be like, oh, snap. Hey, man, when we got this funky situation, we ain't never had to do this before. I'm like, oh, okay, I ain't never had to do it that way, but I did it this way and it worked. So try this, right? And you generate that ease of process. And as black folks, we need to create that ease of process for each other. I should be able to look at, like I said, I should be 6, 7 years old looking at a dentist who looks like me, right? And he or she should be able to sit down and explain to me at my 6th grade or 7th grade level of understanding, step by step, how to become a dentist. And don't give me no vague, well, if you just work hard and stay determined, you'll make it. That doesn't tell me squat. That tells me how to get through the day. That doesn't tell me how to become a dentist. I'm not asking how to get through today. I'm asking how to become a black dentist, or how to become a black architect specifically, or how to become a black fitness trainer, or how to become a black astronaut, or how to become a black physicist, or how to become a black lawyer, or a black construction worker, or a black administrator. You know what I'm saying? Lay that out for me. Give me that game. Give me that process. Start to finish. From grade school to professional prominence. I want to be able to go, from 1st grade, seeing you in marvel and wonder, like, wow. You do this thing that seems super large and elaborate, right? And super detailed, to being able to do it, and see myself do it. I should be able to go, hey, yeah. It's like, hey, well, if you want to do my job, you got to be really good. You got to be really good at English and science. You got to be able to read and be able to do science really well, specifically these types of sciences, right? So I should be able to go and say, oh, okay, cool. I got to get A's in science class, right? And I got to pay special attention to this type of stuff in science class. So when science class rolls around, I should be able to pull out my little chart, and I should be able to check that off. Ooh, boop. I got A's in science class. Boop. I got A's in reading and comprehension. I'm kind of struggling in math. Maybe I need a math tutor, right? Boop. And I get that. So then when I go to middle school, I still want to be a dentist. So I'm on my track. Okay, cool. And then when I get to high school, it's like, all right, cool. Hey, I want to be a dentist. Right? And I'm on this track to be this dentist. And so, since I want to be a dentist, hey, what schools got the best, what HBCUs got the best dentistry programs, right? And I should be able to get, call the people who run the HBCU, call the people who run the dentistry programs. Why, if I got freshmen who come in like, oh, I want to be a dentist. If I'm black and I want to be a dentist, hey man, what HBCUs have the best dentistry program? What's the requirements for your dentistry program? Talk to me as a freshman. Why? Because one thing I found out when I applied to college is because what's the word for it? Basically cumulative. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it basically means your average of all my grade point average of all 4 years wasn't high enough to get into the schools I wanted to go to. And it's because as a freshman, I wasn't having this conversation of these years matter. You gotta do good in 9th and 10th grade. You gotta do just as good 9th and 10th grade as you do 11th and 12th grade if you want to get into these colleges, right? Or you really gotta step it up and make up the difference, right? You gotta do above and beyond to compensate, right? Accumulative is the word. Your accumulative GPA, right? So, as a 9th grader, I should be talking to the people who run the dentist programs at Howard, at Hampton, at Xavier, at Grambling, at Southern, at Prairie View, at Wilberforce, at Lincoln, at Cheney, at Prairie View, at UAPB, at Bethune-Cookman, you know what I'm saying, at Florida A&M. You know what I'm saying? Like, I should be at University of DC. Like, I should be talking to the people who run the dentistry programs there. Why? Because I'm a freshman, and these years matter. You know what is gonna set me up the best academically to get into your dentistry program 4 years from now? What's your criteria looking like? What are your standards? What are your behavior requirements? Because these are the things that matter. These are the things that are going to teach me how to be that college student. And then, these are things that are going to teach me how to be that college student, right? And I can pick the classes and set me up to go and be a dentist. And then I should be talking with, dentistry students. Hey man, I'm a freshman in high school. What's my first year dentistry look like? Hey, what were your strong suits in high school? What were you doing that helped you get into where you at, right? And I should be having these conversations to get those nuggets and those jewels, to put those tools in my tool belt to where I'm picking better classes that are going to facilitate me being a dentist. Sophomore, junior, senior year. What is my application process look like? What does diversity look like when it comes to applications, right? I should be having these conversations 9th, 10th grade, 11th grade. By 11th grade, I should have all the wickets I need to get into not only the school I want to go to, but the programs I want to get into. I should be like halfway through 11th grade. Boom. I got all the credits. I got all the diversity. I got the credits. I got the diversity. I got all of the wickets. All of those different check marks I should have done middle of 11th grade. And it's not so I could slack off. It's so I could meet that standard by the middle of 11th grade and use the rest of the 11th grade and 12th grade to exceed it. Give me those standards early in life. Give me those wickets early in life. So I have the time and to develop. So I have the time to develop. I have the time to acquire and develop the skills necessary to meet and exceed the standards. I have the wherewithal to meet and exceed the standards. So when I get there, I'm not your run-of-the-mill student. When I get there, I'm not your 2-year dropout. I'm not your, I came in, had a blast, joined the Greek letter organization and didn't finish because of, I had family problems or I got financial issues. No, because there should be an easier process. There should be programs. It's like, okay, cool. You in a dentist program? Cool, you got these interns. Or you got these work studies. Or you in an architecture program, and you got these interns, you got these work studies. Right? And facilitate kids getting the experience in that field and applying those skills from the classroom to the profession so they can transition. Right? So and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Grade school to professional prominence, man. That ease of process. Set that up so we can streamline it. Yeah, man. So we're back on the TheBackShot podcast, and we're gonna get into our last topic. Something a little more lighthearted. We always do 2 serious things and something lighthearted to kind of ease out the episode, right? So the last one is cheesecake. Is cheesecake cake or pie? Right? And I asked this question because it's something fun, and I like food. So let's talk about food, right? Cheesecake, right? People be like, it's cake because there's cake in the name. And I go, wait, nah, it's a pie. They say, why? Why do you think it's a pie? But it's got cake in the name. It's got to be a cake. Nah, homie, it's a pie. Because cake don't come with a pie crust. And traditional cheesecake comes with a crumbled graham cracker crust or a pie-style crust, right? First off, cake don't have a crust. Let's get that out. Let's get that out the way. Cake don't have a crust. And cake is not served in a pie dish, right? So, cheesecake has a crust. That's for starters. Cheesecake has a crust, and cake generally has icing. Cheesecake doesn't have icing. Now, There's a difference between cheesecake and cheese pie, right? Completely different between cheesecake and cheese pie. Cheese pie is just a topping. There's a crust like topping, and it's a pie, and it's a cheese based pie filling, right? So cheesecake and cheese pie are drastically different. But cheesecake to me is pie because A, it has no icing, and or A, it has a crust, and B, it has no icing. You can add icing to it, but that's probably gonna be weird. The only thing you need to put on top of cheesecake, other than like some fruit or some candy flavored drizzle, is maybe some whipped cream. That's about it, right? So it's cheesecake, it's cake or pie. You know, I like cheesecake. Is actually one of my favorite desserts. If you had to ask me, if you asked me about pie, like what's your favorite type, what's your favorite flavor of pie? I would tell you cheesecake, and you're probably gonna look at me stupid because you asked me about pie, and I just gave you something with cake in the name, though it's a pie, right? But if you ask me my favorite cake, I'll probably tell you my favorite cake is sakatumi cake with the nuts. Sakatumi cake without nuts kind of tastes weird to me, but you know, I'm more of a pie dude, but I do like, you know, a sakatumi cake. I do like a marble cake. I do like pound cake. If you ask me about pie, pie is where it's at, baby. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you got your cheesecake. You got your apple pie. I like a little cherry pie. But I also like cobblers, like peach cobbler. Yeah, peach cobbler is legit, but you got to make it right with actual peaches. And then no, like fresh peaches, like slice them shits. But another thing though, right, is I like pudding, right? Like banana pudding. Banana pudding, actual banana pudding, has to have three things with actual banana pudding. If your banana pudding don't have these three things, don't come talk to me about your banana pudding. If your banana pudding don't have real bananas in it, don't have real vanilla wafers in it, right? And it don't have whipped cream on the top, don't come talk to me about your banana pudding. And I ain't even a dude who big on whipped cream, right? I ain't a big whipped cream guy. Like I like it, it's cool, but I don't like a lot of things where whipped cream is on. I would ask for it without whipped cream. Like I'll go and get a cold coffee. Like let me get a mocha frappe, no whip on the top, right? But as far as banana pudding goes, you gotta have real bananas, like in it. You gotta have real vanilla wafers, like in it, not just on it. I should be able to look at the side of your banana pudding and see layers of bananas, layers of whipped cream. I mean, not whipped cream, layers of bananas, layers of vanilla wafers. And if you're one of them people who don't layer it, you just take bananas, dice it, and kind of mix it in. That's alright. But no, you cut them joints in circles, my dude, and you layer it. It's like, oh, I got a layer of pudding. What you do? You put a layer of bananas on top of your pudding, put a layer of cookies, put more pudding. Layer of bananas, layer of cookies. Real vanilla wafers, real bananas in your banana pudding. That part, if you don't, you're fake and you suck. Stop calling it banana pudding because it's just banana flavored pudding. It's not actual banana pudding. That part. But yeah, cheesecake is pie, and that's that part. Treat the comment box like the penalty box. Get in there and get the fans moving. Let's hear what you got to say, my baby. This is your host, Young Tony Man. It's the BlackShot Podcast. What up, dog?
I'm at your neck, son.